Queensdale is one of my favorite maps in all of Guild Wars 2 and is one of the most beloved maps by Guild Wars 2's community. So today I want to take a deep dive into this map and explore a bunch of different larger areas and smaller details and highlight my top 10 personal favorite things across the entire map. Let's get started. In the number 10 spot is the Township of Claypool. Now Claypool is a big area with a ton of fun things like all the buildings around here, and has a lot of fun areas connected to it like Clayant Falls, as well as a secondary entrance to Kessex Hills. But to narrow things down, I really appreciate the overall structure of this town. As you come into it from one of its different entrances, you can see a wide selection of buildings that come together to make a fun little town. You have a massive mill overlooking the entire town that doesn't serve any purposes mechanically, but is just there for decoration. You have the stables that you come to during one of the human personal story paths. You have the Claypool Bank, which actually doesn't have a banker inside of it, and just a variety of other buildings around here. But two of the biggest aspects of this town are the task and the crafting trainers, where the task is the Seraph training different militia trainees on how to use different weapons, mostly against the centaurs you can see just on the other side of the wall, where I think this is a task that sticks out to a lot of people, and people either really like it or really don't. But then you have all of the crafting stations. Each starting zone in Guild Wars 2 has an area that has many crafting stations for players to use, and Claypool is that area for the humans. And I really like these areas because they feel super unique because there aren't too many other maps in the game that have crafting stations outside of the starting area. But in Claypool, I do love the layout of this entire area, especially with the weaponsmith and armorsmith building, but I also like how this area is always super popular with a bunch of players constantly around here doing things, which is also unique since you mostly ever see that happen in the major cities and hubs. In the number 9 spot is Demongrub Pits. This is Queensdale's one and only jumping puzzle, and since I love jumping puzzles so much, it is naturally going to make it onto this list, but as you could tell, it is pretty low on my list since it's pretty low in my jumping puzzle rankings. Don't get me wrong, I like this area and the puzzle a lot, but compared to many other puzzles, it's just a bit less cool. Where you can find the entrance in the southeastern corner of the map, and I think this jumping puzzle is one, myself included, that a lot of people have a slightly harder time finding since it is super easy to walk past and then you realize you have gone too far and have to backtrack to find the entrance. But inside, it is a pretty basic cave environment with a bunch of fun decorations and quite a few stone pillars that serve as the main jumps of the puzzle. Towards the end, you have a chamber with a bunch of oozes, but if you step back a bit and take a look at the chamber as a whole, you can see a pretty cool looking area where I really like how this jumping puzzle ends and the environment around here. In the number 8 spot is the Shire of Beetletun and Caudecus' Manor. Similar to Claypool, Beetletun is another major town in Queensdale and has a ton of story going on here in relation to Lake Administrator Caudecus Beetlestone. You have some interesting things going on here like the carnival area and the task area as a whole, but I really like the structure of the town where you have Caudecus' Manor overlooking the entire town with a bunch of different buildings you can run amongst. But Caudecus' Manor as a whole is pretty cool because it serves as the second dungeon in the game, where I love the feeling when you come to this area for the first time and see a higher level dungeon that you notice and take all at, but are forced to return later once you are at a higher level, where it feels rewarding to finally explore this area, where it is also cool to then eventually return to this area in Living World Season 3 as you have another opportunity to explore Caudecus' Manor. Plus, an additional detail that I love is that you can see most of the dungeon on the world map, which is just something that I personally love a lot and would like to see with places like Raw and Ore. In the number 7 spot is Jeb's Wheatfield. We've talked about Claypool and we have talked about Beetletun, but the third major town in Queensdale is Shaemoor, the area of the world where humans begin their adventures in Tyria, where this entire town is incredible and I love it a lot, but as soon as you leave Shaemoor and adventure out into the Shaemoor fields to complete your first tasks, the first area you stumble upon is Jeb's Wheatfield, where I just love this area so much because it is the perfect task to be the first task that many players complete in Guild Wars 2. It has a wide variety of objectives, is pretty simple, and is based around the classic fantasy idea of a farm. But one big thing about this area is the massive mill found at the field, where this is an area that many players miss when they adventure through this area, but you can explore the entirety of the inside of this large building with many different floors, multiple entrances, a ton of fun machinery, and a ton of decorations. I love well decorated interiors in video games, and this entire mill definitely hits the mark for me and is a standout area of Tyria for me. Plus, another fun detail right outside is this bear ruining this villager's entire day. In the number 6 spot is Godslost Swamp. This area is basically the final part of Queensdale with the highest level task and features a bunch of different things that come together to make a really cool area. The area itself is a swamp environment, which is fun to explore given the fact that the rest of the map is mostly plainsy and foresty. You also have the world boss known as the Shadow Behemoth, whom you can fight here, and is often the first massive event that many players participate in. It also recently got a mild overhaul, which made the event even more fun, in my opinion. In the center of the swamp is Deathroot Shack, which is just a super cool little hut in the swamp that has a phenomenal vibe. I also love chatting with the necromancer inside. There are also a bunch of ambient creatures all around here that players, including myself, often kill over and over to progress weapon mastery achievements like Shield Master. Nearby you also have the Temple of the Ages, which is a very important area from the original Guild Wars, and it is fun to explore the ruins in Guild Wars 2. And finally you also have Swamp Lost Haven, which is a line guard haven and is the closest haven towards Divinity's Reach. In the number 5 spot is Beetletun Waterworks. Heading back over towards Beetletun, we can find this complex system of pipes attached to this point of interest. You have the main building itself that has a bunch of pipes coming into it. You can walk through portions of the wall that the pipes are sitting on. You have a cute little bridge going over the pipe, and you can see the pipes snake down the hill towards Beetletun and also go off towards the Beetletun farms to help farmers water their crops. But an incredible detail about these pipes is that you can walk inside of them, where the pipes going towards Beetletun itself and the river right outside of them are actually broken and clogged right now, where you can find an entrance at either end of the pipe and explore the interior of the entire pipe while fighting a bunch of oozes, where this is even part of the personal story when you come here as a member of the Order of Whispers to infiltrate Beetletun, and this is how you get into the city. But I just love the fact that you can explore the inside of these pipes, and I vividly remember doing so for the first time and wondering where it was going to take me. And the number 4 spot is Beggar's Burrow. This is a mini dungeon, formerly known as Bad Neighborhood, located right outside of Shaemoor, where at the end of the day, this is a pretty basic mini dungeon and you can walk right in, kill some bandits, and loot a treasure chest. But I also love that so much. There's always a special spot in my heart for caves filled with bandits that you have to kill for some loot, where this mini dungeon hits that vibe perfectly. Plus the interior of this cave is incredible with this opening in the ceiling, the tree, all of the water, the bridges, and the bandits. But another cool aspect of this place is the back entrance, which allows you to leave this place without going back through the main entrance, where it takes you out to the Shaemoor Graveyard, which is another super cool area of the map on my honorable mentions list, where this area serves as a way to sneak into this place when you come here in the human personal story, but you can also find a grate where this little creek pours into Beggar's Burrow, which gives you a sneak peek of the mini dungeon, which is a detail that I love a lot because players who stumble into this back entrance can see this mini dungeon and know there is something to find, but they have to find the main entrance. Plus, an incredible detail that I love here is the hole in the ceiling where the creek is coming down into that provides an incredibly beautiful and relatively unique view of Divinity's Reach. And the number 3 spot is the Shaemoor Inn. Shaemoor has a ton of fun buildings and many players may have a special place in their heart for the apothecary, but I absolutely love the inn, where I'm someone who just loves taverns and inns in video games, and I think it goes back towards my love for incredibly well decorated interiors, where the inside of this inn is incredible with many different decorations and is just a really cool spot to hang out at. A fun detail you may have noticed when coming into here is the sign at the entrance of the inn, where it has 2 sides with a bunch of text written in New Crichton, which is the language that players can translate into English with a simple substitution cipher, where the sign will read today's specials as well as happy hour favorites, aka items at the bar at the inn are currently serving lore-wise at least. And I love this small little detail so much because it adds a lot to the game, and the inn itself is something that is kind of important at the start of the human story, but is mostly just there to add a fantastic detail to the map. In the number 2 spot is Eldvin Monastery and the Brew of the Month Club. This is an absolutely beautiful location found in the center of Queensdale, north of Godslost Swamp, where this is a typical monastery environment with a bunch of monks occupying the place. This area is dedicated to the human goddess Cormier and has a pretty simple task where you're just helping keep the monastery operational and driving back any centaur attackers. But a large feature of this monastery is how it is a major brewery that provides ale to the other settlements found in Queensdale, where you can find a bunch of decorations and participate in the task and event to help out the brewery side of the monastery. But a big feature that was introduced a while after the initial release of Guild Wars 2 is the Brew of the Month Club, where you can come to the monastery and spend 10 gold to buy an Eldvin Monastery Brew of the Month membership, where you will be sent a special brew each month and can come to the monastery to buy more of each type of brew during its respective month. And once you sample each of the brews, you can get an achievement with a bunch of rewards. And this is just a feature that I think is super cool, and I would love to see more similar types of things like this in the future. But now for the number 1 spot. For my favorite thing in all Queensdale, and it just has to go to the Shaemoor River and bridges. Returning back to Shaemoor for one last time, we can see the large creek flowing from the areas north of the map and into Queensdale, where it flows down the hills near Shaemoor with a bunch of incredible looking waterfalls and into one of the other rivers in Queensdale. And I just love the look of this entire creek. I love how it splits into two, I love all the little waterfalls, and it is just incredibly beautiful. But there are a bunch of things along this area that I love as well, like this big tree house, the steps and walking path along the creek, this building with a water wheel, the stage that gets decorated for Shadow the Mad King, and of course this incredible bridge. I absolutely love how this little bridge looks, and I love the creek flowing under it with the waterfall right under it as well. But of course we also have this massive bridge that connects the village of Shaemoor to Jeb's Wheatfield, where I slightly mentioned how cool of a transition this is when you leave the village and head into the fields, but the bridge itself is just incredible looking and is one of my favorite bridges in the entire game, where Shaemoor as a whole is just an absolutely fantastic area for so many different reasons. And that's my list. I hope you enjoyed. Queensdale is a map that had a lot of love put into it, and it definitely shows when you explore this area. There are so many other locations and fun details that I love about this map, but just slightly less than what I talked about here. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing if you haven't, or sharing the video to a fellow Guild Wars 2 player if you have. I hope you are taking good care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.